Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Raja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari. Krishna is the lover of Radha. He displays many amorous pastimes in the groves of Vrindavan. He is the lover of the cowherd maidens of Raj, the holder of the great hill named Govardhan, the beloved son of Mother Yashoda, the delighter of the inhabitants of Raj, and he wanders in the forests along the banks of the river Yamuna. Already this bhajan is actually very connected to the themes of today's verse, so keep that in mind. It actually may even come back to you as we are speaking about it. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The universe embraces each one of us, yet we can be so blinded by darkness. Because our true teachers guide us with the torchlight of knowledge, our eyes can be opened to the power and sweetness of illumination. Therefore, let us bow down to all those who guide us on our spiritual path. Here are prayers to our beloved Acharya, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vaishyatyade Shatanine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming here. I do want to ask for the blessings, for the well wishes, that I can say something that is worth your attention and time, first and foremost. And then I would like to also do something a little bit maybe different, or just bring something that I haven't brought in a long time. And I was recently reflecting a lot about, or on rather, what is the reason for our hearing? Why are we hearing Bhagavatam classes? And one of the reasons is to worship the Lord in the form of Bhagavatam, because that's a way that we can actually come close to Him. Another reason why we are hearing anything is to stimulate the heart and be inspired to chant and hear more. And I also heard in the past that a successful class is a one that makes a person want to chant and hear more. And so, with that being said, I want to invite you to even have this prayer at the beginning of the class before we even go into the verse. That this class may be, that during this class, maybe you will catch something that will touch you, and you will pay attention to that, or that you will be able to find a reason from it that can stimulate your sadhana deeper, that you want to chant and hear more. So I invite you to try that for this class, and have this kind of clear intention of, this is why I'm here. I want to have my heart stimulated. I want my heart to feel closer to the Lord. So you probably were told already about the verses, but it's Canto 10, chapter 83, and verse 43. So I'm going to open, I actually already have it opened, and I'm going to just share the screen then. see if I can do it quickly. All right, you should be seeing the verse. So, Rajastriya yadvanchanti pulindhyastirna viruddhaha gavascharya charayato gopaha padasparsham mahatmanaha. They're synonyms and translation and purport by the beloved disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Vraja, of Vraja, Striyaha, the women, Yat, us, Vanchanti, they desire, Pulindyaha, the women of the Aborigine Pulinda tribe, in Vraja, Trina, from the grass, Virudhaha, and plants, Gavaha, the cows, Charayataha, who is grazing, Gopaha, the cowherd boys, Pada, of the feet, Sparsham, the touch, Maha Atmanaha, of the Supreme Soul. Translation: we desire the same contact with the Supreme Lord's feet that the young women of Raja, the cowherd boys, and even the Aborigine Pulinda women desire. The touch of the dust he leaves on the plants and grass as he tends his cows. And so here is a verse spoken by the queens that are hearing about, queens of Dwarka, which are hearing about Krishna's pastimes in Goloka and their desire manifesting and thinking about their Lord. Purport: Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti reminds us of the jealous rivalry that always existed between the queens of Dwarka and the gopis of Vraja. The gopis considered the sophisticated women of Dwarka the most serious threat to their hold on Sri Krishna, confessing their anxiety to Uddhava. Kasmat Krishna ihayati praptarajyo hatahitaha Narendra Kanya Udvaka. Why should Krishna come back here after winning a kingdom, killing his enemies, and marrying the daughters of kings? So clearly there is jealousy in this statement. Rukmini and her 7 chief co-wives considered themselves so fortunate in their relationship with Krishna as he appeared in Dwarka that they did not especially desire to see him as he is in Vrindavana. But the 16,000 lesser queens, after hearing Uddhava describe Sri Radha's super excellent qualities, became attracted to touch the dust that falls from Krishna's feet onto the grass and plants of Vrindavana. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti indicates that some commentators give this as the reason why, after the Maushala Leela, these 16,000 queens were stolen from Arjuna on the road by Lord Krishna himself in the disguise of 16,000 cowherds, who then took them away to Gokula. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 83rd chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Draupadi Meets the Queens of Krishna. So there are already topics here that I want to mention already in this verse that I will be coming back to in my so-called commentary on just talking about the class, which is talking a lot about the dust from Krishna's feet, talking about a little bit of the rivalry and especially about the desires of a devotee being met, especially those wonderful devotees in the forms of Krishna's queens that had their desires manifested and eventually came to Goloka to witness already what is mentioned in a verse, to witness the Lord walking through Vrindavan and seeing the dust fall on the plants as he is doing his glorious herding of the cows. So I will stop sharing here and get to speaking a little bit more. So I want to give um, a little bit more introduction to the chapter before we go specifically in a verse. Um, because I feel like this chapter is so special. I mean, every chapter of Bhagavatam is so special. But as I was rereading it, this chapter is so much about like a spiritual success, um, like a happy ending that one's meditation is coming true, like the deep meditation of a devotee, um, and that a devotee of the Lord is fully living like their ultimate vision that they're holding for their spiritual practice, for their meditation, and for their heart, essentially what they've been holding in their heart as their most secret but strongest desire is actually becoming manifested. Um, and there's also so much sweetness here. The queens are describing how they attained Krishna as their husband, um, through very specific circumstances. Every single one of them is remembering so fondly and in details how it happened that Krishna became their husband, and that's the main queens speaking after they're asked. And this is, of course, a very beautiful question to ask as well. I feel like we already have that um, in our lives too. That when we meet a couple that we find that they're like a really beautiful match, it's so natural to just ask like, how did you guys meet, how did you guys come to be together, because it's almost just so natural to want to know that and to want to know that beautiful story of love. And so again, it shows that every single time each one of those queens had this deep desire to have Krishna as their husband, and as their partner, and that desire was somehow and other through beautiful circumstances fulfilled. And so I want to go through the main queens as they are described in the chapter, especially so we can train our memory more and have that chapter encoded in our hearts even deeper. Because again, it's like it's the chapter of success that they achieved what they really wanted and was what was their deepest meditation. And so Queen Rukmini describes that Krishna took her away from almost being married to Shishupal. And that was her deepest dread. And still, and even though it seemed that it's impossible for her to still have Krishna as her husband, to the last moment, her prayers were fulfilled. And he stole her away and then married her. Queen Jambavati, Krishna fought for 27 days with her father, King Bear, until that father realized that he was actually fighting reality the beautiful, Krishna. Um, and upon being defeated, um, the Bear King offered to the Lord the Shamantaka jewel and his most precious daughter, um, as a way of showing gratitude. And he knew that this is the best thing that he could ever wish for his daughter, to be actually connected so intimately with his Lord that he did not recognize at first. And it also shows the love between a father and a daughter, because it is not easy for a father to lose his daughter, um, or to allow his daughter to go away. And yet he also knew that he was offering his daughter into the greatest shelter and protection that there can be as well. Queen Satyabhama, Krishna arranged a circumstance that allowed for a softening of her father's grieving heart after he lost his brother Satrajit. Um, and when the king realized that he was grief stricken and that grief took over his actions, including being offensive as well, as a result of that, after expressing or while expressing his deep regret, he offered his beloved daughter to the Lord, already having experienced the Lord's kindness, because even though he essentially disrespected Krishna, and Krishna allowed his heart to heal from the grief. Queen Kalindi, Krishna came with his friend Arjuna to manifest a deep prayer of Kalindi. He granted her a marriage to him and an opportunity to fulfill her desire to specifically come closer to the dust of Krishna's feet. So that was her meditation, that she wanted to truly come in contact with Krishna's feet, to have that as the object of her worship continuously, and was already holding it in her heart. Krishna manifested that by also um, facilitating a marriage between them. Queen Mitravinda, Krishna defeated other kings in the premarital competition and won her hand, and granted her a new home in Dwarka. Queen Satya Krishna defeated 7 mighty bulls and proved his prowess to marry Satya. And Queen Bhadra, her father knew a deep longing of his daughter for the Lord. And that loving father arranged for that desire to manifest, offering an entire military division and allowing her friends to come with her as a dowry. Queen Lakshmana, this is the 8th queen, Krishna shot a fish target only visible on a water reflection, again proving himself as the most qualified partner, and married Queen Lakshmana. And then Rohini Devi and other queens, Rohini Devi was speaking for other queens, and sharing a story how their fathers were kings which were defeated by the demon Bhaumasura. And when Krishna killed that demon, he released them from their captivity from under the clutches of the demon, and gave them shelter of marriage. So already even 3 of those queens, Krishna shows that even though he is all powerful and so qualified to be essentially any role that one can imagine, he is still proving himself to be the most qualified, especially as a way of showing his mercy and allowing those who don't see his qualification, who maybe are still a little bit blinded to that greatness, to actually see that greatness. And so it's also one of those qualities that any pastime that happens is benefiting not only a singular queen that is actually then having him as a husband, but also everybody assembled. What I also love about those main stories of queens is that there's a lot of father role described in them. And so it's either that some didn't see again the supreme nature of the Lord, and so Krishna arranged for them to actually see that, and for them to realize that Krishna is the best loving shelter that one can have. And some already did see, and already were so loving towards the Lord that they themselves were like, yes, I really want my daughter to experience that highest perfection as well, of being close to the Lord in intimate ways. So that's really beautiful. And he again, Krishna, meaning he, chose to respond to the loving call, or a call for loving shelter from his future queens. Even though he didn't need anything from them, but he wanted to accept the love that they yearned to offer. And so in today's verse, the hearing of the queens sparks a deep response within the heart. They are hearing about Krishna and Gokula, and after hearing that, the desire develops and forms so strongly that they want to connect with the Lord in similar context and similar relationship. Seeing him tending to the cows, seeing him walking the Raja, seeing how he is in that place, which is so different from the way he is moving about and carrying himself in Dwarka. And that also shows the potency of hearing deeply, that when we are hearing as a way of inviting things into our heart and having that meditation that really kind of goes deep, that naturally kind of meets our inner life and sparks desires and sparks greater, almost this like snowball effect of deeper meditations that we can be having. And this is also why we are um, invited in our tradition to hear more, to read more, and to read and hear deeply in that way, with that sense of not only um, hearing, but also not only hearing through the ears, but also hearing through the heart, to the point that it becomes almost like a whole organism practice that really changes us. And I want to talk about the dust. I mentioned that as one of the topics for the class, and I was meditating on it a little bit as part of the preparation for this talk. Um, and there's a lot of focus on the dust in our tradition. Many prayers of the acharyas focus on, envisioning the dust coming from the lotus feet of the Lord and his close friends and his queens, serving the dust of the lotus feet. And one of those visions is that as devotees, or as persons that actually love the Lord, it's like if we love someone fully, especially such an incredible personality, then everything that they come in touch with is also so lovable and worshipable. And so it's so beautiful to imagine that it's like those queens, they attain Krishna as their husband, but they still love and worship the dust coming from his lotus feet. One, as a way of also expressing themselves in a humble position, that even though they are his queens, they acknowledge that he is such an incredible personality and he is their supreme loving shelter, coming in a form of their divine partner in that way. But also they are seeing and are mesmerized by just um, witnessing how he is moving through the environment and how that environment is almost shifting and changing in response to his presence. And so they're witnessing the continuous relationship between Krishna and wherever he goes, especially because in the spiritual world, everything is alive. And so that means that as he's walking through the ground, as he's walking through the trees, as he's tending to the cows, that's essentially witnessing of a continuous loving relationship. Um, when I was thinking about it, a song came to me that I was so grateful for, because to me, it just like encapsulates exactly that. And it's a song that you probably all know, and it's by Nina Simone. A part of it goes, "Black is the color of my true love's hair, his face so soft and wondrous fair, the purest eyes and the strongest hands. I love the ground on where he stands. I love the ground on where he stands." And to me, that really speaks of that as well. This notion that um, if we are to maybe hopefully experience, but even when we can't experience, I can't experience it so fully yet, but when we can even imagine loving the Supreme Person on the deepest layers possible, we truly love, again, him completely and everything that he is in contact with, which means that that love again extends into the entire creation, which is really wonderful um, to witness. Um, that also, this is kind of coming into the context of sadhana. When I was preparing for the class, I was thinking how um, our movement, our spiritual movement, is not a practice of doing alone. It's also a practice of feeling, which we can really see in today's verse. That the primary desire of the heart is becoming more and more expansive until the point that that feeling or that experience takes over and spills into the prayer, it spills into an inspired action. And so it's that invitation, that devotional service stands into ideally an action that is a spillage of emotion, that it's coming from an overflow of actually feeling. That's also why we are often taught that chanting comes before service as a way of supercharging what we are doing with the connection with the Lord. That chanting is one of our access points to connect with the Lord in the form of the holy name, and eventually actually truly feeling his presence, that he is non-different than the holy name, and having that experience and that relationship, and from that place wanting to act and do things that also please him. I want to read some passages from Bhagavad Gita to support those themes. This is Bhagavad Gita chapter 14, verse 26. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. This is Srila Prabhupada's translation. I'm going to read another translation also as a way of hearing repetition, remembering more. And one who unfailingly, with the yoga of offering love, serves me, that one, transcending the qualities or the gunas, prepares oneself for being united with Brahman. And this is a snippet of a purport to that exact verse in Srila Prabhupada's Gita. Bhakti Yoga means that the Lord is there, the devotee is there, and the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the individual person otherwise there. Oh, and an individual person, comma. Otherwise, there would be no meaning to Bhakti Yoga. And so again, this is speaking about devotional love, but also about the relationship between the jiva and the Supreme Person. That Bhakti Yoga means that there are the two, the jiva serving the Lord in their natural position, and the love being in between them. And that service is there, that no matter what happens and no matter what circumstance of life we are placed in, there is this fundamental recognition that my life is to serve the Lord, and that this is what's going to fulfill me on the deepest level, because that is my nature. I'm going to read one more verse, and this is from chapter 9, verse 29. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. This is again another translation. I am the same toward all beings. No one is either hated or dearly loved by me, yet those who, with an offering of love, offer their love to me, they are in me, and I am also in them. I'm going to read also a snippet of a purport that was written by Srila Prabhupada to that, and then discuss that a little bit more. This is a little bit longer than the previous one, but I find it to be so beautiful. Whoever surrenders unto me, proportionally I take care of him. This is a statement that Srila Prabhupada paraphrases from Krishna. This transcendental reciprocation exists because both the Lord and the devotee are conscious. When a diamond is set in a golden ring, it looks very nice. the gold is glorified, and at the same time, the diamond is glorified, meaning they both essentially showcase each other's beauty. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter. I really love that. And at the same time, no, sorry, I read the wrong line. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter, and when a living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. The Lord is a diamond, and so this combination is very nice. That also shows that as we step into service, we are actually coming in contact with the beauty, or like the supreme beauty with a big B. And because of that contact, we also are becoming attractive, not because we really are looking after that, but because we are in contact with the supreme beauty. And because of that connection, our own qualities are becoming exemplified through that service. Continuing the purport, living entities in a pure state are called devotees. That's one of the definition of a devotee. That also disqualifies me from being a devotee. The Supreme Lord becomes a devotee of his devotees. If a reciprocal relationship is not present between the devotee and the Lord, and there is no personalist philosophy, then there is no personalist philosophy. In the impersonal philosophy, there is no reciprocation between the supreme and the living entity. But in the personalist philosophy, there is. And so it's again the focus on the relationship, that we are perceiving the Lord gladly, and due to the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas, who continuously really put pressure and emphasis that the Supreme is a person, and that Supreme is someone whose qualities we can know, whose names we can know, whose pastime we can know, and so we can come very close in that way of knowing the Supreme Person, and through that we can have a personal relationship with that Supreme Person, and so that is also like such an essential point of our tradition. Coming further, having heard about both the reciprocation of the attitude that one is having in service and in a desired relationship with the Lord, having also heard today in a class how the whole chapter is essentially a manifestation, not manifestation, a example of a success in spiritual life, that all the personalities described attained exactly what they really longed for in the deepest core of their hearts, which was to be close to the Supreme Lord and intimate with Him. I do want to bring a question, which is, what do I want? As a way of reflection, if you were to really ask yourself, what do I want? Do I even want Krishna, to be really honest? Or do I want, at the deepest core of my heart, to be close with the Lord? Is that desire a primary one? And those questions, hopefully we have at least a faint yes to those. And it also brings honesty to recognize that sometimes there are things that, or there are still desires which are in a way of the desire to be close to the Lord and serving His devotees to be the primary one. But that brings me further into asking, what is our vision for our sadhana? Just like at the beginning of the class, I kind of ask, like, what do you want to, in a way, how do you want to hear to really be impacted and to really come closer to the Lord? In that way, if we're aware and have the clarity of our desire, that brings us strength for our spiritual practice, because we know why we are doing it. And that can be very specific. We may be doing it for a very specific desire of coming close to the Lord, or already have a sense of calling in at least at the moment, of like how we want to take it further. And maybe that's a desire to actually transform specific anarthas that already have been resurfaced for us through chanting and through the spiritual practice that we know and have been shown that are holding us back from coming closer to the Lord. But it is important for us to connect with our spiritual core, not only as remembering our constitutional position of the soul's yearning for the relationship with the Lord, but also to remind ourselves, like, or what is even the primary desire that I want to cultivate, spiritual desire, if I don't have a spiritual desire as my core desire. And that gives us a sense of coherence in our lifestyle and thought and practice. That that spiritual desire, that spiritual core of the yearning, just like the queen's head, that desire to serve the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord, and that was guiding their entire life and their entire being. In a similar way, we can have that deep desire guiding our lives. And so I want to open for questions. I want to ask you one reflective question, which is, what do you want to remember from the last 45 minutes? And what would you like to kind of bring further into your day that you feel was supportive for your own individual furthering of spiritual practice? So I hope that was coherent, and thank you so much for hearing me. And that's it. That's what I have for you, at least from the schedule or structured class.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo.
Good morning. So nice to see you. Well, your classes are always delightful because they come from the heart. Your spiritual masters empower you, and it's very. It says that some Mamabiri Bandhiro Bhavanti conference. It says that we hear from someone who's genuinely a devotee. It's pleasing to the ear and satisfying to the heart. It's a simple truth that's not available in this world. It's a beautiful class. So there's an interesting thing about the topic kicks off with the idea of these queens being, use the word, envious of the gopis. So there's sort of a competition. And Srila Prabhupada tells us that everything in this world is also there in the spiritual dimension. But it's free from mundane inebriety. So in the material world, if there's envy, it's harsh and full of pride and wanting to eliminate the other one and get what they have. But in the spiritual dimension, free from that inebriety, it's more like admiration. They're inspired and grateful to hear about each other's relationship with Krishna because they want to be moving in the direction of pleasing Krishna more. And when that quality of wanting to please Krishna, not just to get Krishna, it's unlimited. You can share it with everyone, and there's no bitterness to it, free from inebriety. We admire the other devotees and how wonderful Krishna is empowering you and everyone to please the Lord, and we want to follow in the footsteps of these devotees.
Yeah.
So nice. Not mundane envy.
Thank you so much. That's such a beautiful point. And how I also perceive it is like that if we really love somebody, and I'm bringing it to kind of the level of our experience, so we can also connect with that image, especially because it is said that nothing is in a way not somehow connected to the spiritual, although sometimes it is very much a reflection which is crooked in its own way. But I do recognize, and this is like my personal experience. I remember and I still do, like, love my mom very much. And I was always thinking, and I was kind of surprised, like wanting to see how do you behave at work? And like who are you at work, mom? And it's just like having this desire of like I know you as, I know you at home, I know you at school, I know you like in a forest, but like how do you behave at work? And there's just this part of me that feels like when I'm hearing about the queens of Dwarka really having this desire of like I want to see Krishna in a forest, like playing with cows, and I heard that he's walking barefoot um, through the sand, and he's like running around with his friends. It's like, oh, I want to see that version of a person that I really love. And that kind of jealousy just guided him into being like, to me, like manifesting as this again like even stronger desire of like why are there people that who already could see it and like I want to see it too, which to me is a very sweet vision, and then that also is working very successfully in churning their hearts and deepening that desire that it's like not only I want to see it, I've heard it from somebody, they already saw it, I really want to experience it because that desire is even going deeper into their hearts. So thank you so much for this point. um, Venu Madhuri Devi Dasi, please go ahead.
I just want to thank you. It's my first morning here, but like doing this class by
Venu Madhuri Dasi, check it out. She has a beard. I had no clue. Miro, hold on. Venu Madhuri has her hand up, okay? You're gonna go after Venu Madhuri.
I just want to thank you. So your devotion is inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry to cut you off.
No, Hare Krishna, that's fine. I'm always pleased to hear from you. Just first of all, thank you so much. It's so wonderful to see you, dear Ananda Manjari. I feel like it's been so long, and we miss you, and hope you can give class more. I know you're so busy with all that you do, but it's so great to hear from you. And you asked sort of what do we take away from the 45 minutes, and I was reflecting what you said about how we should even approach any Srimad Bhagavatam class, to be very attentive to what it is that is going to open our hearts more to Krishna. To be, which I thought was a really nice prompt, because then not just, we're listening to remember, as you said, we're listening to repeat and remember. And Adi Purush Prabhu says that a lot too, that the importance of listening and repeating so we can remember. But then, what are we remembering for, right? It's that we're listening for the thing that is going to open our hearts. And there's always something in it. And for me, I think what opened my heart was you reminding us that these stories are stories of success, because I think the path is so long, the journey is so impossible. Our anarthas are so huge. We are in Kali Yuga, and there are just so many obstacles. And so just to remember that success is possible, and to really meditate on what it is, to meditate on the celebration even, just is so encouraging. So I really appreciate that. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. First of all, congratulations on your initiation, because I haven't been able to say that to you. And yeah, thank you so much for this comment. I was just actually talking to this advanced practitioner yesterday about Bhagavatam. We will be probably starting a study of Bhagavatam together. And she was mentioning how it's like Bhagavatam is alive. It's a living manifestation of the Supreme. And we are alive. We have our juices flowing essentially and heart flowing. And that also means that through reading Bhagavatam, it's like one living entity is interacting with another living entity. And that sparks a conversation. So we may be almost fooled to think that we are just reading a book, but in fact, we are like having a conversation. And an entry to that conversation is having an open heart and first people coming and being like, I want to come in contact with you, I want to serve. And that becomes an entry point in actually hearing the other side and having that specific message coming through for us. So that's that. And also mention you, as you mentioned, like the reminder of the kind of the success of the path. One thing that is also very strong in this verse is that it shows that these personalities had a very single pointed vision that they were holding on to. And so, in order for us to be successful on the path, we also need to have that very single pointed, predominant desire of the heart. That, in general terms, is to connect with the Supreme Person. But it also takes very nuanced and detailed responses for every single one of us because each one of us is individual. And so then we have this very individual, unique kind of deepest desire of the heart eventually. And that is becoming clarified as we are going on a path. And so that also is to me like humbling to be like, yeah, I need to really make sure that I have a very clear desire. Because Krishna responds to our desires, but is it like a mixed message? Because I feel like most of the time it's just a mixed message that we are sending. And so that's yeah, it's something to, at least for myself, I'm preaching to myself. It's something to remember. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
You. I want to go back to the person in the
His
red.
name is Meru. Meru.
Meru.
Yes.
Do you want to add anything else, Meru?
No, I just enjoying the vibe, the whole thing, from the singing of Adi Purusha to the class. And I just appreciate your passion and your devotion and your purity for this path. And like what you just said, that we're sending kind of mixed messages to Lord if we're not one pointed on this path, kind of, just all God or nothing, then we're just kind of sending mix. Because yeah, Krishna fulfills our desires. That's true. He's most amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually have a vision coming from Christianity that is very appropriate for here, which is that um, Jesus is often described as like herding sheep. And if you ever saw herds of sheep, I actually used to watch them a lot because I find them to be so beautiful. There's always like one or two lost lambs at the end that like the shepherd needs to kind of like go and fetch again to come back to the herd. And it's kind of that, which is like we have our path, we have our life, but when we get lost, we still are given opportunities to come back. So it's not that if we make one so-called mistake or if we diverge and we send mixed signals, that there will not be help for us to have more clarity or for us to come closer to the desire. So it continuously just shows us that it's like, well, Krishna cares and he reciprocates, but he also arranges so that we can come closer to him.
Krishna is the most merciful. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, thank you, Ananda Manjari. If you have a few minutes, would you like to stay for the afterglow, Ananda Manjari?
Yes, I can
Thank,
say that after go.
thank you. Krishna Kumari had her hand up. Okay, darshan time. Turn on your cameras if you can.
Great awe and reverence. By His grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is that my consciousness purified. Attachment to His feet is a profession that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and knowledge. He is my Lord, from Him the and by Him ignorance is destroyed. May the scriptures sing of His kind. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord of master of devotees. Oh, Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of the lotus feet. May the things that are humble over the world. Take shelter at your lotus feet.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Arjuna Prabhu.
Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Okay, welcome to the Afterglow. Dear devotees and Ananda Manjari, thank you for the extra time that you're given us. Krishna Kumari has a comment.
I really appreciated what you read. I'm not sure from what purport, maybe you can elaborate. But Prabhupada given the analogy of the gold with the diamond. And yeah, sometimes you have those exchanges with devotees and it really just touches your heart. Like it's so easy to see, like you can actually feel the brightness of the diamond. And see the luster of themselves, their individual self of the gold. So yeah, I was just curious about that purport.
Yeah, for the ease of remembrance, I quoted both purports from the verses that I was sharing. So the first verse was 1426, and that was a portion of the purport to that verse. And then the second verse was 929, and that was also the purport to that verse. Or like a portion of the purport to that verse. So yeah, I really loved how Prabhupada says, the Lord and the living entity eternally glitter. It's like so beautiful for me to imagine. So thank you so much. I mean, there's so much in Srila Prabhupada's purports that he really elaborates on and brings out the meaning of the verse and how it applies to us and our sadhana and our perception of the reality of the small r and how it relates to the reality of the big R. And so all these things, that it's really beautiful. Do you want to add anything else, Krishna Kumari, or this is all? Thank you so much. Min, please go ahead and speak. I also really love your background. It's such a beautiful place that you're in.
Thank you. It's my partner's library. I really like the analogy, bringing up again of gold and diamond. I've been trying to chant more steadily and more, sincerely, and it's been not so easy. And as I was reading the book, Living Name by Satchidananda Swami, he quotes Bhaktivinoda Thakur there, where he says there are two living entities in the world, and that's Jiva and God. And that for us to be alive, that we have to connect. Well, Jiva and the living name, he says, and that we must connect to this name to be alive. And I really like this analogy of gold and diamond, that it kind of is giving me a picture of the brilliance of that contact, that when we do become connected to God, that we become alive, but that actually means that we become also beautiful and sparkling and kind and whatever, all that comes with being in contact with God. So it's just really encouraging. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for chanting and also your honesty and reflecting on your own practice. What comes to me is this acknowledgement that it's like we have life through the presence of divinity within us, and if we connect to the divine themselves, then that is our life current. And so in a way, part of the spiritual practice is to grow our capacity to hold that divine current within our own lives and within our own presence, which is kind of going back to the image of like the whole life is a preparation for almost being able to channel more of that grace or channel more of that current, or to like be that gold that actually sets the diamond, that is just like holding it up to the world to be seen. And so thank you for this reflection, and I wish you all success in further connecting through chanting. So that is really, I cannot bless anybody, but this is the ultimate blessing that we can really receive, which is, may we chant amazing rounds and feel the presence of Krishna through his holy name. Bhima Prabhu?
Haribo, Ananda Manjari, Hare Krishna. Once again, what a sweet class. I just very briefly wanted to extend the metaphor, and actually, you just said it. The gold, which is soft and lustrous, is made therefore more lustrous by reflecting the diamond, which it reaches up with its tines, it embraces that diamond. And in that is sort of like a devotee who's soft, embraces the hardest substance, which would be the hardest to get to, the rarest um, uh, prism of all, that takes existence itself and breaks it up into so many, fractures it into so many different colors, as Krishna does. His leelas are all the different colors that, like a rainbow, come out from a diamond. And the devotee within his heart, he reaches, and his heart tines and embraces that diamond. And that connection between the diamond and the ring is a marriage. That's why our engagement ring, when we've made a commitment, that's the engagement. And this ring and diamond and golden ring, with its setting, which is the heart of the devotee. And we'll note also that setting, those tines reach up for one stone and one stone only. And that is the diamond of Krishna's affection and attention and remembrance. So once again, thank you very much for such a sweet class. It's always so nice to hear your take on things. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm so grateful that this image is so impactful, and it reminds me of or connects to me with the comment of Narottam Nitaidas, who wrote, I just wanted to express that reading Srila Prabhupada's books is very important because it allows for us to understand properly, especially for me, it's important to understand. And that image is an image that Srila Prabhupada brought in his purport. And so to me, it's just so amazing that that is also something that that stood out. And when you were sharing, I also had another image that is often expressed in our tradition, which is that we are almost like born with the God-shaped hole in our core or in our heart, and it's like the kind of the journey of the life, especially through many kind of its iterations, is really to just ultimately recognize that nothing else is going to fill that hole, that we just need to invite Krishna into our heart, and that's going to satisfy us. Yeah, so thank you so much. Are there any more questions, or otherwise we are going to wrap the Sangha here?
Thank you, Ananda Manjari. Anupam is here in the car. Can you see that God-shaped hole in his heart? See it? It's right there.
His beautiful
Yeah.
smile.
Yeah. Thank you for fulfilling our holes, Ananda Manjari. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your presence, and hope to see you soon. Also, Hari both.
Hare Krishna.